I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is October 22nd. It is October 22nd, 2019. This is our regular business meeting, and we are in the Joe N. Idelette Teacher Education Center tonight. I want to welcome everyone that's watching by YouTube and television to this meeting. And at this time, our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag is going to be presented by Vero Beach High School Air Force Junior ROTC Detachment 043 under the direction of Wade E. Dews, Chief Master Sergeant Retired, Aerospace United States Air Force, and Dean Rasdahl, Major Retired United States Air Force. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is the first time since the school year started that we've had the Vero Beach High School ROTC here, Junior ROTC. Let's give them a hand of appreciation. Okay, so we're moving on to adoption of the orders of the day. Are there any items board members wish to move from consent to action? No. Seeing none? Okay. All right, I need a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Mrs. Justice?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Mrs. Barrenborg?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Moxley for a series of presentations.
Good evening, board members and members of our audience, and those of you that are viewing us on TV at home. Welcome to our meeting this evening. We're so glad you have chosen to spend this time with us as we recognize students. We get to see many different presentations, and that's what it's all about, is doing the work of the district on behalf of all our students here in Indian River County. So I'm going to turn this over to our Public Information Officer, Kristen Maddox, to do the honors.
Hello and good evening, everyone. We have some wonderful performances and videos and honors tonight. And we're starting off with Fellsmere Elementary School. This is their ukulele club under the direction of Mrs. Sarah DePardo. And these are 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. And they will be playing a few different songs from different Latin countries. So we have, and Mrs. DePardo is going to help me out here if I need some help. We have Pio, El Tambor, and Cheeky Morena. Sorry, guys, you're much better at this than I am. I apologize. And that song's from Puerto Rico. And these students meet twice a week in the morning before school. So you guys all come early to practice ukulele? Everyone does? That's amazing. Wow. And Fellsmere Elementary just wrapped up Hispanic Heritage Month, which was from September 15th to October 15th. And they ended it with a really awesome concert where their second graders and first graders, they sang and they had a cultural costume parade, which was just awesome. We shared some pictures on Facebook and Twitter from the district of everyone. So we are so excited to have this group here tonight. And if you notice, they all have shirts on, the Fellsmere Elementary Ukulele Club, and they were donated by Robin Reif, who's a local realtor. So thank you to her for donating those. All right, guys, take it away. It's okay. We're waiting patiently. You guys are doing a great job. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Right this way, sweetheart. Back around. Great job. Let's give them another hand, the Ukulele Club. All right, keep up the good work, guys. Come back and visit us soon. I think this is the first time we've had ukuleles. I don't remember any other time, so it was our the debut performance of the Ukulele Club. Okay, so we have a couple of videos for you tonight. Our first one highlights National School Lunch Week, which was last week, and this year's theme was School Lunch, What's on Your Playlist? And it spotlights a wide variety of flavors, dishes, delivery options, and tastes that can be customized in today's school lunches. And we had a lot of really awesome things going on in our cafeterias, including lip sync competitions and even some student performances, and you'll see some of that in this video.
In 1962, President John F. Kennedy created National School Lunch Week as a way to celebrate the National School Lunch Program, the largest federal child nutrition program in the United States. Today, 95% of schools and over 30 million children receive healthy and affordable lunches through the National School Lunch Program. National School Lunch Week continues to recognize the benefits of the National School Lunch Program and the hardworking food service staff that make school lunch happen each and every day. What's on Your Playlist was the theme of this year's National School Lunch Week held the week of October 14th. Cafeterias throughout the district were decorated to reflect the playlist theme. From a lip sync battle between the teachers at Citrus Elementary to open mic day at the Freshman Learning Center, students and administration alike helped to make this year's National School Lunch Week a huge success.
So our next video is a little more serious, and that's because we made a video about fake threats and how you receive real consequences if you are to make a fake threat against a school or an individual at a school. And unfortunately, this is a problem that several school districts across the country are dealing with, and we have had some of our own fake threats coming from our own students, and they are receiving serious consequences for doing that. And we knew that we needed to do something as adults and teachers and administrators alongside of what's already being done in schools to teach students about the dangers that come along with using social media, and fake threats is one of them. So we worked together with some of our administrators and our student resource officers and different teachers and coaches to try to make a video to not scare anyone, but to really get the point across that if you make a fake threat in this school district, you'll be investigated to the fullest extent, and you will have real consequences, and sometimes those consequences can impact and affect your entire life into adulthood. And we really want to make sure that it's well understood and that we can partner with our parents at home and try to do everything we can on our end to educate our students, and hope that at home you'll be doing the same thing, and no matter what age or race or gender your student is, that you're keeping an eye on what they're doing on social media and helping us get this message through to them.
Maybe you think it's for your eyes only.
Maybe you think only your friends will know you said it.
Making a fake threat is not a joking matter. The number of fake threats in our school district is increasing each year.
And unfortunately, many of those threats are coming from our own students.
Making a fake threat is considered a felony offense.
It doesn't matter if you're joking or being sarcastic.
Your race, gender, or age does not make a difference.
Writing, speaking, typing, posting a graphic, texting a threat against a school or an individual will result in the investigation of your friends and family. Your phones, computer, and home will be searched, and your family and friends will be questioned.
The consequences for making a fake threat could be expulsion, suspension, 15 years jail time, and up to a $10,000 fine.
Emails, voicemails, text messages, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter posts, comments in the hallway, comments at a party or anywhere out in public. Our community is listening.
A moment of joking about causing harm to your school or others will result in a lifetime of dealing with a felony record that will impact your ability to regain your reputation and find a career.
Your teachers,
Coaches, student resource officers,
and peers are listening.
You will be heard, your threats will be seen, and you will be reported.
We will not tolerate fake threats against our schools or individuals in our school district.
Every word,
Every word,
Every word,
Every word.
every word,
every word.
every word.
every word is taken seriously.
Fake threats result in real consequences.
So of course, we couldn't do what we do without our local law enforcement that supports us at each one of our schools. The Indian River County Sheriff's Office, Sebastian PD, Vero Beach PD, and Fellsmere, who we know reach out and they touch the students and educate them at Fellsmere Elementary School about different dangers of using social media. And they even have a cadets club at Fellsmere Elementary School where they're working in the school with the students. And so thank you. Can we give them a round of applause to all of our local law enforcement? And we have a wonderful safety team at our district under the direction of Assistant Superintendent John Teskey and Brian Bender. And Brian's here too. Thank you, Brian. And a very important app that I want to tell you guys about and make sure that you get on your phone. It's called Fortify Florida. And it allows you to make anonymous tips from Fortify Florida. And they go directly to the leadership in our district, straight to John, Brian, the sheriff's office, principals, and our superintendent, and they get the tips and they act on them immediately to make sure that it is taken care of in a timely manner and that it is investigated fully so that our students are protected every day. So please encourage your students and for yourselves to download this app, and if they hear anything or see anything suspicious at their schools, they need to use it and they need to let us know what's going on. So in addition to that, we have our sheriff's office tip lines, an email line that you can also contact them and make a tip. And those are available on our website and the Sheriff's Office website. So again, thank you for that. That was a very meaningful project to take part in. Next, we have our Casual for a Cause donation. And this month, or actually last month, we had the Substance Awareness Center of Indian River County that we raised money for. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Casual for a Cause, I'm sure many of us are, it's the day in the district where we have our students and staff dress casually for a donation made to a pre-selected organization. So last month was the Substance Awareness Center, and we raised a total of $3,860.04. And we have Carrie Lester, who's the executive director, and Irene Caldwell, who's the programs director. If you ladies would please come up. And before I hand them this big check, there's a real one too. For those of you who weren't at our board meeting a couple weeks ago, we had our resolution that we rolled out, and we had a presentation in partnership with the Substance Awareness Center where they just gave some very valuable information about substance awareness and prevention, and we're just so happy to partner with them and to have the resources on our website and to get some really important information out to our district. So we are more than happy to present you with this check, and board members, if you'd please come up to the front. And if you have anything to say, go right ahead. I'll take them.
moment. Good evening. My name's Carrie Lester, and I am the Executive Director of the Substance Awareness Center of Indian River County. And our agency focuses on prevention, treatment, and recovery support. And I'm here tonight to represent what we do in the name of prevention. And I would certainly like to thank Dr. Moxley and the district for our partnership, for what we're able to do in prevention in our school district. And we've had a long-standing partnership, and we can't do what we do without your help. And I am humbled by Casual for a Cause. I thank you for supporting us in that effort. Because what we are able to achieve is we reach over 5,000 students each year now in grades 5 through 8 with life skills training. And life skills training is an evidence-based prevention program. It has over 35 years of research proving its efficacy. And so we're able to reach 5,000 students. And prevention science tells us that one-time presentations, scare tactics, don't do drugs doesn't work, that the key has got to be skill building. And so our life skills training program focuses on personal self-management skills, general social skills, and drug resistance skills. So in our community, we give our youth over 38 weeks of this social skills training. And these are the tools in a tool belt that help them navigate through life's challenges. So we should all in this room be very proud of what we do and what we're able to achieve. And I'll just share really briefly that our agency was recently CARF accredited, which is the Commission Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. And our prevention program received exemplary conformance to the CARF standards. And our surveyor pulled me aside and she said, Carrie, you knock it out of the park. I've been doing this 13 years. I travel the country and I have not seen anything like this anywhere else the way you do it. And so we are a model implementation program. We should be very proud as a district and as a community what we do for our youth in the name of prevention. We lead the state of Florida in that effort. Even nationally, the University of Colorado, the Study for Prevention Science, they have noted our implementation plan as using resources widely and being so significant with our outcomes. And lastly, I'll just share with you, 10 years ago, back in 2008, on our Florida Youth Substance Abuse Survey, over 35% of our middle and high school students right here in Indian River County reported past 30-day alcohol use. That's 1 in 3 of our kids here in our school district reporting past 30-day alcohol use. And we've increased our collaboration. We've increased the scope and the reach of our program now to 5,000 students, 38 weeks of this life skills training program. And in 2018, I'm proud to report that our use past 30-day alcohol use rates are down to 16%. And because prevention works, and when we follow prevention science, we get outcomes. So I thank the district for taking a strong stand and supporting what we do. So thank you.
I just want to thank our Student Services Department, Dr. Kathy Parandozzi, who's in the back row back there, and Dr. Christina Jacobs and Dr. Sharon Packard. You guys are truly like the boots on the ground in the schools, and we couldn't get this information to our students without you there. So thank you for everything that you guys do in our schools. Okay, well, last but certainly not least, we have our students here tonight who made gains on their state assessments. And we would like to recognize each and every one of them. So when your name is called, if you'd please come to the front and take your certificate, and then stay up at the front so we can take a group picture at the end. And I'm going to do my absolute best on all of these names, but guys, your names are getting harder and harder every year. So here goes nothing. Okay, so first we have, and my list does not have schools on them. Does your list have schools on them? I don't think it does. It's going. We like to say school names, but tonight we're just going to give student names and tell them the learning gains subject. So this subject was math to algebra learning gains, and we have Alexandra Margaret. Margaret Alexander. That is Margaret Alexandra. I said the name backwards. Alexander Chen. Samara Coakley. Rowan Collings. Rigel Ann Estelor. Gael Hernandez. Ethan Laboda. Haley McCleary. Catherine Strader. Maddie Tatro. Christina Van Cleve. And Jacob Young. Our next students made learning gains from algebra to geometry. Giselle Aguilar. Cole Brockfield. Hansel Cabrera Torres. Azar Sellen. Logan Farquhar. Do we have a teacher accepting an award tonight? Thank you to the teacher. Emma Haynes. Nicholas Kendrick. Juan Lemus. Rafael Martinez. Tommy Ray Musso. Justin Newman. Deshaun Thompson. Emmanuel Azamar. And these students, including Emmanuel, made learning gains in math. Jamie Barnes. Keyshawn Campbell. Gabriella Campione. Caden Chapin. Enrique, principal alert. Enrique Chavez. Juan Macias. Derek Mizzles. Rayshin Joy Pegdognanen. Donald Pegueros. Diana Ramirez. Eutimio Rojas. Kentoria Smith. Brock Stalls. And Shannon Yarborough. The rest of the students made their learning gain in English language arts. Kingsley Adkins. Devon Baptiste. John Butler. Sebastian Garcia. Joshua Haynes. Angela Inman. John Plate. Damian Porter. Zariah Trusty. And Jonathan Vasquez. All right, students, stay right there. Let's give them a big round of applause. And before you guys sit down, I'm going to take a picture, but first I want to say thank you as well to your teachers and your principals and your parents, because we know that it takes a village to help you guys get to where you are today and to make those gains. So thank you to everyone who is supporting these students up here as well. Go ahead and take your pictures, and then I'm going to get one. That's all for presentations. Thank you.
Passing it
I do
down.
not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. It's like graduation.
Yep. I try to line it up in a square. Okay. Is that good? Centered.
Kristen, is Dr. Moxley, is Dr. Moxley's sign in her name, her name badge, is it in the little, oh, okay. Earlier before, I thought I saw it off.
It was a kids' play. They
You can switch my name now.
Yeah.
That's okay. Perfect. Done.
And then we're down to 5. Too bad people don't stay. St. Lucie County. Full house. Principal house, assistant principal.
I'll let him finish.
Full house.
It's like we're at church. The back row is full. I know.
Yeah.
It's like it's what's left.
Okay,
What is
so
left?
Learning gains are exciting.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so that wraps up our presentations, and we're moving on to the citizen input. At this time, we have one individual that's signed up, and Mrs. Liz Cannon, please come on up.
I'll still stay. Good evening. These are 2 awards IRCEA won this past weekend from the Florida Education Association. One is the Gold Membership Award for increasing our membership by more than 2% last year. The other, a Platinum Award for having more than 70% membership. What these awards represent is that our local was able to increase membership in a year where negotiations were stagnant. Over the past week, I have received calls, texts, emails, and social media posts thanking us for the support we have given teachers throughout these negotiations. I think it is safe to say that the board did not receive that same positive feedback from our teachers. To clarify some things from last week, when you look at the 5-year trend in costs, you should take into account attrition.
Our average over the past few years has been about 10%, so you need to reduce those annual costs by at least 100 teachers. This reduces the 5-year projections by at least $2 million. You must also remember that revenue has increased each year, not always by a significant amount, but it has increased each year. The numbers given by the district were just another scare tactic, which was easily embraced by the board. The health insurance proposal approved by the board was fiscally irresponsible, inflating the insurance fund and pushing off a premium increase until they will be too much for the average employee to afford. I will take no joy in telling you I told you so, because I will be one of the many to suffer from this bad decision. Inflating the insurance fund is much like what happened to the general fund. Yes, the fund balance has dropped over the past few years, but that is because it was never intended to be in double-digit percents, hitting a high of July 1st, 2016 of over 18%. 3% is the state's safety net, and 5% is our own. We are still 4.4% above that. That is money that could be used for so much more than sitting in the bank. Your ruling at the legislative hearing was much like what happened in Brevard County just a few short months ago. The union presented a sound case that was dismissed with flawed data and reasoning. When their contract was not ratified by the teachers, and the teachers came out in droves to support the union, the negotiations took a distinctly different turn. Brevard teachers got a much more significant increase, and the district could no longer hide behind their inaccurate data. While the IRCEA Executive Board has not yet made a recommendation regarding ratification of the contract, it is my belief that the teachers of Indian River County are not going to take this lying down. Finally, I want to remind you about our respective roles. You as elected officials will not garner sympathy from us for not fully understanding what your job entailed before you had it. Your lack of preparation is not our responsibility to bear. So please stop telling us how difficult your job is. It pales in comparison to what we do each day. And as far as public input is concerned, I have every right to express my thoughts at this podium in public, to respond to statements made at the dais in public. It's what we call democracy. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we are on to the consent agenda. At this time, I need a motion for approval.
Move approval. Second.
Dr. Schiff. Mrs. Justice?
No, thank you, Mrs. Zork. No comment at this time.
Dr. Schiff? Any other discussion? No. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 5-0. Okay, so now we're on to action agenda, and action agenda A, sorry, let me put this on. Actually, it's going to be action agenda B, because A was reserved for if we had to pull a consent, and we did not have one, so we're going to move to B. Approval to set public hearing date to adopt new and revised revised school board policies. Dr. Moxley.
Yes, good evening, board members. This afternoon at our superintendent's workshop, we discussed two policies. One revised policy that dealt with exceptional student education. It was policy 2460, and added 2 sentences for a revision regarding least restricted environment. The second policy was a new policy, and it's 5330.03, and it's entitled Medical Marijuana Low THC Cannabis Use to Qualified Students in Schools. This is a new policy. It is mandated by law. In 2016, the Florida's electorate voted to pass the Florida Medical Marijuana Legalization Initiative, known as Amendment 2, and then in 2017, the Florida legislature passed Senate Bill 8A, which required each school board, and it reads, each school district school board shall adopt a policy and a procedure. That was a workshop this afternoon that is presented before you tonight, and I am recommending approval that both these policies and the adoption move through the process with the scheduled public hearing and adoption to be noticed for the business special business meeting on 11/26/2019.
Do I need a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Mrs. Barrenborn?
Yes, I'd just like to comment. Thank you for bringing these both to our workshop today. I know we had a lot of questions, especially about the second one. And I know there are some concerns on our part, but I know as we work through this, that we're going to keep in mind what our state statute says. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, the second policy today, we had an interesting conversation during the workshop. I suggest if anyone would like some more information to look at the backup from the workshop, which has a lot of information, as well as listen to the discussion. This is a new issue that we deal with in this school district and other school districts around the state, and I'm sure that as the years go by, the statutes and the policies and laws governing this type of interaction with our students and families will change. So this is an interesting thing to be a part of doing and being a part of passing a policy like this in our district. And, you know, I joked today that I remembered when sunscreen was the biggest issue about, you know, can students put on their own sunscreen? And now we're talking about medical marijuana, but the world is changing and laws are changing. So in a really interesting discussion and something that if you'd like to learn more about, again, today, the workshop, quite a bit of discussion.
Just add one quick thing. As others have mentioned, you can see the discussion from this afternoon. But in just reading the policy, I want to caution people that this policy is tricky because we're caught between federal and state legislation. And so what looks like it may not make sense from a policy level is because we have to be in compliance with both state law and federal law, and they conflict. So where there are questions and problems, I encourage people to watch the video or keep that in mind as they read the policy or look at the policy, because I agree, as do we all, there are things that don't seem to make sense, and the issue is because of conflicting legislation. So as Mrs. Justice says, we'll move forward with the times, and I'm sure this policy will be updated and amended as we move forward. So.
Mrs. Rosario? No, ma'am, no. I just want to remind the public that this is just saying that we're accepting the date for 11/26/2019 to have the public hearing. So we reviewed the policy during workshop today, and the reason that we noticed this is obviously for state law, we have to notice these policy changes, but also it gives the public time to send us their comments and any suggestions that they have on this policy. They can email the board members or Dr. Moxley, and then we'll consider those ahead of time. We'll look at those, and then we could possibly bring those forward at this business meeting on 11/26 when we actually vote on the policy.
And you're able to speak at the public hearing if you'd like to share any
Absolutely.
information.
So at this time, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Okay, action agenda C, which was added, approval of agreement with Edgenuity Credit Recovery for 2019-20 school year. Dr. Moxley.
Yes, board members, Florida Statute 1002.45 requires school districts to offer a credit recovery option for our students. In the past, we have used a program called ALS that is no longer going to be available moving forward. So we are bringing forth a new contract with Edgenuity. It is a program that has been used in many districts throughout the state of Florida, and it will provide an opportunity for not only credit recovery, but for hospital homebound and alternative education students. We are recommending approval of the contract, and this meets our strategic plan goal for student achievement for graduation as well.
Okay, need a motion for approval?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Mrs. Justice?
No comment at this time.
No, I'm familiar with the program. I think it's great that we're offering this for our students,
Okay.
so thank you.
Go ahead.
Dr. Moxley, can you just speak to, you said this is a new program to replace one we no longer have. Can you tell me if the cost is the same or different, or?
I'm going to have to refer to Ms. Dampier on that one because we've had ALS for a number of years, and it just is no longer an option for us to renew.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what the district paid for that originally.
Long years ago, we had it, and we've been getting it free for the last, I would say 4 or 5 years. And the system can no longer support it. Many districts moved to Edgenuity 10 years ago. We were still trying to use the platform, but we were told by IT, we cannot, it cannot support, the server can no longer support that old software. You will have to pull out disks to support student work moving forward, so we need to upgrade to a newer platform to service our students. And this will be great because we'll be able to use it for hospital homebound, which we were not able to use in the prior year.
I think this is really current, and the other thing is that when you say, well, okay, well, free versus the cost of Edgenuity, but the cost really isn't free anymore because we would be supporting old technology, and the cost of that would be horrendous, so.
And
this
I
makes
can
no
also
sense.
say that we've seen the platform, and the content is much more rigorous. It's based on the Florida standards. The old content was kids could finish ALS within a week. This is going to take some more time for them, and for them to truly be able to, teachers to implement this with fidelity, as well as the students to actually be able to obtain and have mastery of the content.
And can I just follow up? I assume then that we knew this was coming and this was in the budget that we approved,
Yes,
correct?
yes, we did plan for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Mrs. Rosario?
No, ma'am.
I do have a couple of questions. Being that it is homebound, hospital homebound, I was wondering, some of the services that we provide, we can bill the medical insurance companies. Is this something that is billable or no? Who would know that?
I would have to defer that to Dr. Parendozzi.
I don't think so, but I don't know that for sure, but
Yes, that's
Dr.
what I would say.
Parendozzi, if you know the answer and can speak to it, that's great.
It is not.
Yeah.
Okay. And another question is just the language here, terms and conditions between Edgenuity, Inc. and School Board of Indian River County. And I like to have clear understanding. I know in the past with our certificate, and I apologize, I haven't brought this forward, I just caught it today. Is Edgenuity, the contract's made out to the school board, but whenever I look at the certificate of liability, the certificate holder is the school district of Indian River County, and I know that we've been trying to make sure that those match the language. So is that?
I will work with our risk management department to try and communicate that. I guess my question I would direct to Mr. Gresta is the fact that it says School District of Indian River County on the certificate versus the School Board of Indian River County, Florida, is that going to prohibit this from moving forward tonight from a legal standpoint?
Board members, what I would suggest is it's not legally required that you approve the insurance certificate. This is information that staff usually provides to you to prove that they actually have received it. What the contracts tell us is the vendor can't start providing services until they have a valid insurance certificate in place. So you can certainly move forward to approve the contract tonight with the understanding that staff will need to get the corrected insurance certificate in place before the vendor starts work.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And am I correct to say that it should say School Board of Indian River County, Florida?
Right, the way the contract is
Okay,
worded.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so that was just my questions on that. All right, I appreciate the work on it.
Thank you.
No further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are moving on to item 7, superintendent report.
Yes, board members, I just have a couple items. First of all, as you know that we are now in National School Bus Safety Week, and our school transportation professionals go out, and greet our students every morning, and they said good afternoon to all our students when they deliver them home. And I just really want to take a moment to recognize our transportation professionals that drive our buses, that assist our bus drivers and assist our students and substitutes. And you know, that's such a critical, important job, as are our food service employees. And we saw the National Food Service School Lunch video earlier in the evening, and it's just, we want to recognize these individuals that serve our students in a very important way to make sure that they're nourished and that they get to school safe and get home safe. And so I just really want to thank all our personnel in these two areas as we recognize. And as always, we are always looking for substitutes and bus drivers to work, and they can visit our website if you're interested in any one of those types of positions. You will also notice on our website, our calendar committee is getting ready to start their important work. I know as we had discussions about, you know, hurricane makeup days and that type of thing, we did talk about the calendar committee and the work of the committee, and that date is coming up. So if you're interested in being part of that process, please visit our website, and there are directions there on how you can get involved with that. Board members, I also know that on November 6th, we will continue with a all-day work session as you work through the superintendent search process. You know that as part of that process, there were various advertisements on how to get the word out for applicants. Just so that you're aware, I do subscribe to one of the publications, so I did pull the ad out so you can see what it looked like for Indian River County. I did bring that from my publication that I received at home. The only other thing that I wanted to highlight tonight is that on Friday, we have a work session, morning work session on our strategic plan, and that is to review and update. I did ask that if, as you're thinking over the next couple days, if you could just jot down on a list any topics or items that you would like to see represented in the strategic planning process. If you will send those to Nancy or to myself, I will make sure that we have copies for all of you that we will share on Friday. But so that I can help do some organization, I'm going to combine the lists and put them in the categories so that we can kind of see them in context as we start to have that conversation collectively to come to consensus on maybe where our priorities are. We have worked as staff looking at the process to try and really make it a little bit more user-friendly, to wrap our arms around it. You'll hear more about this, but I did put the current strategic plan in board docs for your reference, but we actually wanted to kind of bring some ideas to you. You can say, no way, we don't want to do it that way, or you can say, hey, that's a good starting point, but we want to kind of tweak it this way. But it's just for a point of discussion. We've kind of brought some different perspectives on it. We've tried to look at the work of the equity committee and how do we represent the equity plan in our strategic planning process. How do we look at the work of our strategic partners, and to try and look at key performance indicators. And so all that, we're going to work through that and we'll get as far as we get. We want to look at our vision statement, our mission statement. Do we want to add guiding principles? Do we want to add values or belief statements? So all those things, and I'll bring some samples that you can look at, but it really will be more of an informal work through it, and then we'll go as far as we want to at that point, and if we need to set other meetings, we can do that too. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to board discussion. It looks like there was an item added, framing questions for the superintendent search. Did you, there's some work that I know that had happened behind the scenes, but let's see if it, with the superintendent aligning a meeting to discuss this with Hazard Young. But go ahead.
Oh.
Go
I have
ahead.
no idea what you're talking about.
What are you?
With work behind the scenes, what does that mean?
No, she's talking about something different. You may be referring to our
Okay.
November 6th meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what-
this is something different. Yeah.
Scheduling.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry
So-
about that.
That's okay. This past week, I attended the MCAN Lunch and Learn, and I had never attended one before. I didn't know what it was. And so I learned when I went to lunch. And basically, the intent of the meeting was to talk about framing questions. And I'm very familiar with a framing question. We didn't name it that particularly in past leadership conversations. However, it starts with a stem of a question, and then you put in your meat into the potatoes. And so I came up with a framing question that I really felt, and the people at MCAM really felt like this was powerful, that, I should share. So I said, you know what, I think I should, because as we look at the superintendent search, and we're going to develop questions to ask the candidates, we're going to do that in the sunshine, and we're going to have HYA there. And we know that time is very valuable when they're here with us. So we don't have a lot of time to go on and on and on about what we're looking for as a board for that superintendent. However, that's what a framing question is really good for. A framing question kind of sets you up for what is your overall arching thought about what you're looking for. And so I wrote the following framing question. I just wanted to throw it out there. How can we select the best superintendent for Indian River in such a way that the decision is reached in consensus with all board members, considering the needs of all stakeholders? And I don't know about you guys, but I'm approached to Publix, I'm approached everywhere about people's ideas of what they want in a superintendent. I know it's a big topic of conversation. And so this framing question helps us to clarify strategic intent. What is our intent as a board? It's to come together. It's to find the best person. I know we all want that. So in other words, can we use this framing question to determine if we want to have candidates prepare essay questions, such as Volusia County did? That's what they did. Or do we want to have them prepare presentations, such as how to move us to an A, while keeping all of the DSEG order requirements? So those are just things I'm throwing out there that I would like to kind of have a discussion about before we have HYA in front of us, before we decide what questions to ask these candidates. And again, going back to the frame, is my true feeling is I want to come to consensus with my fellow board members, and I want to consider the needs of all stakeholders. And I would like us to either have a short discussion on this now, or Dr. Moxley, I brought it to her in a conversation this week, and she thought it was a great idea, to the point where it might be a longer discussion than a short discussion tonight, knowing us. She didn't say that, I did. I'm thinking that. Thank you. You're welcome. So she thought about maybe attaching it to Friday, to that meeting. So I guess the reason why I gave you the sheets is these kind of go with the framing question. That was given to you this afternoon instead of this evening. But basically it's, we're looking at the intended results is obviously we want the best superintendent for our district. But unless, I can't think inside all your heads, and, you get approached by different people that I get approached by. I know we all want the best candidate. I guess the question is, what does best mean? And so if we can kind of have a discussion about questions, do we want them to come to us with answering a question? Do we want to have a short? I'm just afraid when we get HYA here, we're not going to have that long to talk about and decide that. We're going to have to decide questions and get down to the nitty-gritty. I would like to have a discussion about what is it we want them to do when they come. Do we want them to present? Is there an overarching hot topic that we want them to address? Your thoughts? Go ahead.
I think I'd be more than happy to discuss this on Friday after we've had some time to digest and think about that. I know that there were a number of different methods that HBA will use in helping us to come to a decision-making process. I know they utilize the Delphi method as far as working with the board to kind of address what we're looking for in a candidate and what questions to ask. But I do think that it would be more appropriate once all board members have had the opportunity to review the materials and can bring I like to be a little bit more thoughtful with the comments regarding something like this, and I don't believe that I've had the time to be able to do that just yet, since we've just discussed it right now for the first time.
That's why I thought about putting it off.
Mrs. Rosario, then Dr. Sue.
Dr. Moxley, this might be a question for you. Do we know already what is expected when they come?
Sure. On November 6th, that's an all-day meeting. We're going to start in the morning, we'll take a lunch break, but there's really 3 parts to that meeting. And I will have a meeting with them. I think I have a conference call with them on November 1st to try and map out the agenda for the November 6th date. But here are the 3 general parts. One, you'll need to define your slate of candidates that you want to interview on the 14th and then on the 16th, meaning you won't identify on the 16th, but what does that look like? What's the day going to look like on the 14th? What's the day going to look like on the 16th? Some of that, it kind of talks of what Mrs. Barenborg's talking about. So identifying, are you going to interview 8 people, 5 people, 10 people, 2 people, whatever, however you're going to structure that. What's the first round of interviews going to look like? What's the time element for that? Second round of interviews, what's the time element, and what's the format in which that's going to be? So that's the first thing. The second part is logistics. And that kind of crosses over, is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be an hour and a half? Is it going to be 2 hours? However that's going to be. Are you going to do a framing question where you want them to, ahead of time, come prepared to present? Do you want to send them questions that are in a written form that would come back? All those types of things. On the Friday, remember how we had talked about the carryover from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, on Friday? Do you want to have one-on-one interviews? Do we want to do a tour of the district? Those kinds of logistic things. And then the third part is getting down to what Mrs. Barenborg just referred to as the real detail of, how many questions are you going to have? How many minutes are you going to allow to answer? How are you doing the structure of the questioning like you did with the interim superintendent? What exactly are those questions and how are you going to get at that? So it's a lot to cover in that day. So you're going to stay pretty busy moving from one thing to the next. There's a lot of details that have to be framed out that day.
So is what Mrs. Barenborg suggesting, does that fall into this logistics period part, or is this something that we ought to consider for Friday?
What I hear Mrs. Barenborg talking about is having a philosophical discussion more than a logistics piece. Of course, you might cross into some of that logistics arena, which is okay, because then you'll be ready for the 6th, that when it comes down to, well, do you want to have a question like she talked about? Another example, sometimes people say your 90-day plan, your 120-day plan, whatever it may be, or you give them a problem, or you do things ahead of time. Those are some of the logistics things, but I hear more of my understanding, and Mrs. Barenborg can confirm this, it's more of a philosophical that you as a board kind of talk about in an informal setting where you're not crunched for time.
Exactly. That is exactly right. Thank you. Because, the 5 of us have opinions, and we can't voice them all the time, but I also know that when we have them here, we need to stick to a really, really curt agenda. And I'm afraid that philosophical discussion is going to get lost or not happen. And I think it needs to happen before we get to this point so that we can all agree that, oh, okay, well, these are the overarching things that I'm looking for. And then when they come, boom, we're all kind of on the same page thinking-wise.
I agree, we need to really have this discussion. I just think in Florida, it's like so unfortunate because we're telling the candidates what we're looking for, and
that's okay. It's fair. It's in the sunshine.
I understand it's in the sunshine.
But we can't talk about it any other way.
Well, and this is probably the hardest way
Right,
to have
yeah.
any type of conversation about anything.
Well, true.
Like this
That's
is
why
just
we
not
talked about doing it in a
conducive.
workshop. I think that's a great
So
way
let's
to do
just
it.
move forward to maybe have a comment, and if you have some concerns about some of those things, because I actually share some of those concerns with you, maybe we can talk about that on Friday.
My only question about Friday is time. I have an appointment after our morning meeting. If we add it on, how much longer are we adding it on?
So we will do it within the time frame we allotted and scheduled. What we'll do is we can either do this part first and say we're going to dedicate this time for that topic, and then do the strategic plan. You won't do all in one day. I mean, I think that will be a starting point. I kind of thought through it and said, okay, depending on the discussion, I was going to flow it however we needed to based on your needs and your discussion, and we'll get to whatever point. I kind of thought, okay, I kind of had an idea where we would get to, and if we get there, that's great. If we don't, it's okay, because we'll schedule another. You won't do the strategic plan all in one day. So you can tell me which way you'd like it, whether you want to start with the strategic plan and we'll have a hard stop at a certain point and then move into this. But we won't add time onto the day because I think we have a morning for that.
If we could start with the strategic plan, because that might be a good way to center our thought process for the second part of that conversation.
I agree.
I just have a question. Whenever I'm looking at this schedule, do you have an idea of certain, so we can put together a semi-mini agenda for this? Do you have a certain items?
A protocol to follow?
That you,
Well, I mean, I think we have to have a conversation about whether or not we're actually going to move in this direction.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
And I guess what I'm going to ask my fellow board members to do is, I read an article that said how Volusia got down to their 3, and then they had them answer essay questions, and there were 3 essay questions that they each answered, and you can read the article online. And I would implore you to do that, because we are in competition with several districts in the state of Florida, and we ought to learn from each other. And I think that when we see what's the best technique, because I don't know what the best technique is for finding a superintendent, but I sure as heck am going to try to figure it out. So,
well, HYA will help with that too, I would
right,
imagine.
of course.
Right.
But I see us having a long discussion that day about just that, and I think we should just say, let's all do our homework and let's see what are ideas out there that we can bring to the table, have that discussion before HYA comes. That way we're kind of together on how we're going to move forward and our agenda that day flows.
Awesome.
Can I add to that? Yes. The other, I think Mrs. Justice mentioned that HYA talked about doing a Delphi technique analysis. The other thing they talked about was a SWOT analysis. And I think that's something that we can be thinking about in advance of that conversation, so that when we come in, we're not constructing from scratch there. It's likely that many of us will identify the same strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I don't remember if it was HYA who mentioned it, or it sort of came up during the interim search, but I like the idea also of posing scenarios. I like watching how somebody thinks on their feet, and there are many scenarios that could very much apply in this district. So I think there's a lot to think about before that, and
That's exactly what I'm asking for.
yeah, no, well, and I think that whether we have the conversation now or not, I think we all kind of know, and it's incumbent on us to think about that before we get into a room about it. We know we have limited time. We have limited time with our consultants. And
That's
we
what I'm
all
worried
also
about, yeah.
know the pressure of the significance of this decision. So, yeah.
So remind us, November 6th is the all-day workshop, correct?
Correct.
And then we're going to
And then the 14th.
choose our finalists, or our semifinalists.
Semifinalists, you'll do that first.
And then the next time that we'll meet will be on the 14th,
Correct.
and that'll be to interview the candidates. And then on the 16th, we meet again here on a Saturday to interview our finalists. Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to take place on the 6th.
Yes, and even on the 15th, whatever you choose to do with that day, that's kind of that logistical part. We want to get that structured, and we need to give instructions to whomever those people are that are identified to come and interview as semi-finalists. So we kind of want to keep our ducks very organized and
Absolutely.
In a row.
Two parts. If for any reason we don't get through it on the 6th, might there be another opportunity for us to follow up even if HYA can't come join us? And then the second part of that is, once we get through all of that, will it be HYA's responsibility to say, in effect, this is what I heard, this is what we're crafting, and I will provide you with a summary in the documents about what we talked about on the 6th?
I believe, my understanding is that would be HYA's task as our consultant. That would fall under their realm.
So that when we come in on the 14th to interview these people, we will have all of that documentation in front of us. Also, just to clarify, I think the portal closes on the 24th or the 26th.
I think it closes Friday night at midnight.
This
And-
Friday, which is the
right.
25th, I think.
Correct. And so then on Monday, they will gather everything up, and we've actually been corresponding, Mrs. Esplin is corresponding on how we're going to get all that information sent to us, and then I think she knows who wants it in copy in a book binder like you did for the interim, or you'll get it both ways. You'll get it paper if you'd like, or you'll get it electronically. And we have a numbering system for that. So you will get those by Friday, the 1st.
By Friday the 1st, which will give
Yeah.
us until the 6th.
Correct.
To look that over.
To look that over. And then they will obviously come with their expertise that they bring to the table as a recruitment firm, and they'll have some suggestions for your consideration, and then you will discuss that, and each one of you will bring individually your comments and what you would like to see, and then as a governing body, you will come to consensus on how you're moving forward.
Will they provide a ranking sheet or an evaluation sheet that they use and are comfortable with so that we're all working on similar criteria, or will we do that individually as we did with the interim search?
My understanding is that they do have a ranking sheet. I don't know that it's a rubric, but I think they have a ranking sheet that they will provide, and they'll provide you with some instructions. Like, I believe they have a packet of information. They customize it for each district, but they'll give you, some of the basic do's and don'ts of the interviewing process, that kind of thing. And then they'll give you, some tools to use in the form of a ranking sheet. And then you will get every applicant for you to come to the table. And then when they come, they will actually come with their best professional recommendation to you, and they'll use that, I would suspect, as a starting point. And you, as a board, could say, okay, if they bring 8 people, for example, you can say, okay, we like all 8, or no, we want these 5, or no, we want these 5, and we're going to add these 2. Whatever, you can go from there, but it's a starting point.
I would like to get that ranking sheet and get myself familiar with it, so I don't know.
Okay,
if
we
Mrs.
can- I will-
Esplin can
we
reach
can
out,
call.
because
Mhm.
I don't want to have to be doing that type of homework during the time that I really need to be studying and researching these
Okay.
candidates.
We will reach out to them tomorrow and see if we can't get maybe the instruction sheet with the ranking sheet.
And if they could, I realize this isn't, your job, and I can call them up and ask for this too,
fine.
of course. But if they could do that in some way that's not a PDF document, is like a spreadsheet, so I can write directly into it,
Okay.
that would be helpful. It's not useful for me to have a PDF that I can't work on.
Okay. We will ask.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Is that it?
And if I could add, thank you for the active role that you've been playing in this. It's atypical for an outgoing superintendent to be as engaged with the search for a new superintendent, and because we're in slightly different circumstances, because you're an interim and we have no particular discomfort around it. I appreciate your support in this as somebody who has been through this process on both ends of it in ways that we have not. So I have found that very valuable guidance and support. So thank you for just stepping in.
Well, I'm here to support you in your efforts.
All right.
At our next board meeting, we'll be giving you the saint.
And I think we do it every meeting.
Saint Susan.
Humble Susan.
Humble Susan.
Okay. Uh-oh, what are we saying over there?
Peanut gallery.
Susan? All right, so we are moving on. That was to school board member matters. I'm going to ask Mrs. Justice to start us off.
I really don't have a lot to share tonight. Keep reading with your kids. It's one of the best things that I get to do with my kids. We just finished The Castle in the Attic. It's an oldie but goodie. If you haven't read it, maybe pick it up. It's really a fun book. And I went to MPO this week, board members, last week actually. There wasn't a lot to report that really involved us. They continue to watch the train situation, and we had a little bit of a discussion about bike rentals and those types of things happening, but for the most part, it was more about projections as far as transportation in this area. So that's about it. Keep reading.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't really have anything, but because Mrs. Justice said, keep reading. For me, as the parent of a teenager, it's keep talking. You know, particularly with your teens, it's difficult when they, at this age, to keep those lines of communication open, because they want to separate and be independent. And it's just, you know, as reading to your young kids is, talking to your older kids is, and I just can't encourage that enough, even when they don't want to. Just tell them you love them anyway. Hug them, talk to them. Other than that, I have nothing to report.
This morning, we met in an executive session, and I just wanted to thank Mr. Tusky and Mr. Bender and your team, as well as all of law enforcement, for doing the work that you do and for helping us through that process in terms of what we were reviewing with best practices. So I just wanted to extend that gratitude to you all for the work that you're doing in ensuring that our schools are safe and that our kids are safe. I also wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Shrigley, who is the band teacher at Storm Grove Middle School. They had, my son is in his band class, and they were engaged in a pumpkin patch fundraiser. So the kids had to sell pumpkins. And the pumpkins were sold this past weekend at, you know, a small little green area behind their school. Anyway, there's still extra pumpkins. If anybody needs a pumpkin, I'm sure Mr. Shrigley would be happy to accommodate you. But it was really great to see everybody come out, and of course, they sold a lot of pumpkins. I think that is it. Oh, yes. Someone asked me earlier about Mr. Echeverria from Fellsmere, who is taking a leave, but Dr. Moxley has assured me that the position of principal, whether interim or otherwise, will be covered, and the school is going to be run without a hitch. So I just wanted to make that public notice. And I think that's it.
Okay, two things. One, I wanted to bring up the instructional calendar as well. Dr. Moxley already talked about it, but I know when the hurricane issues hit and we had to make that difficult decision about what to do with those 2 days, that's when people reached out that already made reservations and whatever else and were concerned about it. Now's your time to have some input on this. So if, and I will reach out to those people that reached out to me and say, you know, I hope to see you at this meeting. So the meeting is going to be October 30th from 4 to 6 here in the TEC. I don't think you added that part. So it's right here, 4 to 6 on the same day that we have the annual unitary status progress review. So we will be here also October 30th from 5:30 to 8:30 for that. So that's all I have. Thank you. Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry? Oh, multipurpose room.
The
Okay.
calendar committee.
The calendar committee's in the multipurpose room.
Right.
Yeah, they both can't meet in the same room, although they're back to back. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so they're not gonna meet in the same room. We'll have instructional calendar committee meet in the multipurpose room, and the annual unitary status meeting will be in here.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you to Mrs. Hart for inviting the board, Mrs. Berenborg and and the superintendent, we were able to attend the Elementary Honor Society for the 4th and 5th graders. That was the first time that I've attended one for the elementary, but it was definitely a great ceremony and a great way to celebrate our students. Last night, I did attend the Child Care Resources, and I appreciate Dr. Moxley for coming over. What's exciting about this is you see the community really coming together on trying to find solutions to help with increasing the quality of early childhood education and also making it more affordable so that working parents can afford the quality. In the documentary that we saw a snapshot of is no small matter. I would encourage you. It is so cute. But it's cute because it has all these little kids in it, but it's very powerful. So I encourage you to go on YouTube and look that up. And I just want to make it a challenge to all our staff and our board members on Friday night. We, Vero Beach High School Fighting Indians football team is going to be heading down to Fort Pierce, and we're looking at trying to break the state record. We have, since 2013, we've had 60 wins. As of Friday night, we tied the state record, and so on this coming Friday, we're looking at breaking that that state record, and I'm very excited. I think we're going to have a good turnout of students, but I just, as a community, let's just pack the house where all they see is red, black, and white down there, and I think that's all I have for now, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Moxley for closing.
Thank you very much for a good day. We did a lot of items all day, and just great work for the district and for our students, so thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn at 7:24.